Hello, I'm live. Or at the very least, I should be. All right, just doing my announcements. I guess I'll post this up on Twitter. Oh man, okay, hang on. I have so many tabs open. That's not the one I wanted. I guess we could use this one. Let's see. My link. What is my link to this live stream? Hey Devin, ST, what's up? How's my weekend? It's good. I haven't done much. I've just been catching up on sleep. And ST, don't worry. I'm fine. Like, I'm fine. Twitter just gets really angry, and yeah. I don't take any offense to it personally. Yeah, I don't personally take any offense to this whatsoever. I'm just here for the reactions and the content. Yeah, so how's everybody doing? How are you? What's going on? It's been a while since I've posted a video. I've been working on my video, and I intended for the video to be like, I don't know, like 2K words. But it's now 6,000 words long as well. And it's not criticizing JJK, believe it or not. Despite the fact that I've made about 40 videos and all of them talking positively about JJK. People now think that I just make criticisms for JJK. I don't. I'm working on a theory video, which is taking way longer than I thought it would. So that's where we're at with the content, but don't worry. It's gonna come, and yeah. I'm diligently working on it so that I could publish it at like a really, really the thing is, it's like I want to publish it. I get into my perfectionist sort of mode where there are times when I'm like, all right, one video a week, whatever, blah blah blah, and it's like I just, whatever the video quality is, it's going out that week. I'm getting it done, and then I get into these modes, I think maybe because it's winter, where I just really want to write like really long pieces and really, really polished content, which is eventually what I want to do, but I know I need to be more consistent with my uploads. Sorry, everybody. You're my comfort YouTuber. That's so sweet. That's really sweet. I know you have an Instagram, but I didn't have a Twitter. Is it public or private? Oh, I have a Twitter. Yeah, that's where all this shit went down. 1 second. Yeah, I've changed my tag to Studio Esper with an X at the end on everything. It's the same as my YouTube now. So let's see if you can see this. Why are they cooking on Twitter? Because I had some hot takes, you know? I had some hot takes. As I've been known for apparently recently. But the thing is, the only things that go like viral on Twitter for me is like things that I say that are like a hot take and kind of inflammatory, but like anything I say good about JJK never makes it to anybody's timeline, so whatever. But yeah, so this is my Twitter, and this is the thread that we're going to be talking about today. But I'll let people filter in. Not a big deal in my opinion. Yeah, like I genuinely I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like I this was just like a thing that I had in my video. Like I said, I've been editing my video for a while, and my video is at 6,000 words right now. And this was 2,000 words, I think, of my video where I talked about like the technicality of it, all of like the little bits and pieces of it. And I was like, you know what? This doesn't fit my video. So I cut out 2K of my video. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm just going to rant about it on Twitter because this 2K is never going to see the light of day. And I wrote it and I was like, I kind of just want to get my thoughts and feelings out there. And then Twitter was like, how fucking dare you have an opinion on Jujutsu Kaisen, you stupid bitch. And that's essentially where we're at right now. That's where we're at. Yeah, I'm happy that JJK is moving. I'm happy that we're getting progress. I'm happy that we're getting lore. The lore, honestly, is probably like the biggest takeaway for me for JJK. I love sinking my teeth into the lore of JJK. I don't know if it's all good, but I love your videos. Happy you're still making videos. Thanks, ST. Yeah, I'm gonna keep making videos. I'm very excited for my theory video. I actually called one of my friends, and you might see her in some of like my what's it called, in my comments. She'll like do really, really in-depth stuff. And I called her the other night and I was like, does my theory video make sense? I've been working on this for like a month and I'm not sure if it makes sense. So thankfully she's like a good bouncing off board for me to like talk about my videos and if they make sense. So the chances are if I've made a very large video, she's talked to me about it to make sure that I'm like not just going crazy. Some dumb takes from me or from Twitter, because it's fine. You can think I had dumb takes. It's good. It's fine. JJK has been mediocre for a little while now. IMO, now that things have picked up, I'm happy with whatever comes. Honestly, I've stopped judging JJK altogether. It just comes at this point. Actually, let me put up chat. Hang on one second. Also, I don't know how to do, like, back when I was on Twitch, YouTube chat was like way easier to like. Sorry, Twitch chat was way you to put nicely on like the stream, and then this thing now is like, it's ugly. Do you guys prefer not having chat on stream, or would you rather have chat on stream? Because I think it looks kind of ugly, but if you prefer it there, I'll keep it there. Yeah, I think that, I think Gega's trying his best. Like there have been really trying times of JJK, but like, what manga hasn't had trying times? You know what I mean? Like Chimera Ant arc for Hunter x Hunter. Fucking all of the last arc of Bleach. Those were all really trying parts of the manga. So it's like, it doesn't mean that those aren't worthwhile reads. You know what I mean? My criticism is Gege not showing us the other characters. Yeah, I would like to see some more of the other characters. I miss Inumaki. My boy Inumaki. But I don't want him to go into battle with only one arm. So I guess that, like, point is moot, you know? Hope he's doing okay. Happy to see Sukuna and some of the main cast again. We now know what he wanted from Megami this entire time. As much as it sucks for Megami the character, this arc felt stagnant until now, I think. Yeah, I think this was definitely like a good turning point for the arc. I think that there is still that feeling of Gege feeling really eager and like really, I don't want to say the word rushing because rushing has a bad connotation to it, but it genuinely feels like we're barreling towards the end at like a breakneck pace. Like your videos, they give an interesting perspective and based on opinions altogether, even if I disagree with them. Thank you, Readwell. That's a nice, insane thing to read after all the things that I read today. But yeah. So should we get started? I feel like people who are gonna like hop in will hop in now. So yeah, for context, I tweeted this last night at 1:19 a.m. after I was editing my video, and I was like, you know what? This part of the video is just not going to make it in here. So it's 1 a.m. Nobody's here. I'm going to just tweet out my thoughts. And Yeah, nobody's gonna see them. But leave it to Twitter to see anything that makes them angry and go, I think not, bitch. I think not. But first, this just needs to be said before anybody like gets mad for me, before anybody like anything else. Like, this just needs to be said like as a little like PSA. This. So look, like, just as a PSA, this is not how we should be representing ourselves in the community, where if somebody disagrees with you, you ask them to unalive themselves. I think that we need to put forward a little bit better of a foot in terms of how we interact out in the world, so that we don't get labeled as those crazy anime manga readers, you know, like this is not the best of us. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care what this person said to me. Doesn't bother me, but this is not something that you should be saying to anybody, period. Like, there's a guy out there just, you know, reading, watching Watakoi, having a good time without any of this like hateful behavior. And that's this right here is not the foot forward that we deserve to have within the community. You know, this is not what we should have in terms of our representation. So if you see it, call it out. You know, it's so disappointing. I know they're probably kids or whatever, but like, this is why the anime and manga community get a bad rap. Let me catch up to chat. My criticism, I read that. Thought it was very, pay attention to what you thought went wrong. And this is a bit embarrassing to say if I ever make a story or manga. What do you mean embarrassing? Yeah, I could just copy and paste my Twitter. Actually, I'll just copy and paste my link. That's my Twitter. Yeah, so yeah, and I think that like people can disagree with me. Like, they just can. Like, I have no qualms about people disagreeing with me at all. You know, I feel like Nobara is coming back. The wild roses and Yuji's foreshadowing, and he's smiling. Also, Angel's another example of what you talked about in your previous infamous vid. Yeah. So I would not be surprised if Nobara comes back. Color it wishful thinking, color it like drinking the fandom Kool-Aid. Like, I would not be surprised if Nobara comes back. Do I want her to come back? Of course. I absolutely want her to come back. But it is a very interesting point of the roses in Yuji's hands. Where is that? Because I don't think I've picked that up. And yeah, Angel, like, I have nothing to say about the whole Angel thing. I feel like I've said everything I've had to say about like the Angel, like women of like Jujutsu Kaisen discussion. Like, I wrote a 45-minute long video on it. I don't think Angel is dead. But yeah, I feel like I've said I had all I've had to say about it, and I don't want to particularly beat a dead horse. Generally, don't listen to Twitter. Words of wisdom. Absolute words of wisdom. Check the comments of what? Twitter solos people's sanity. That's a really good way to put it. Yeah. Don't see her surviving what happened. I think that's fair as well. Like, in terms of Nobara not surviving that, like, that's a very fair assumption. Like I said, on my part, it's just wishful thinking. I really love Nobara. I think that, you know, she embodies like a really nice character that I would want to have inserted back into the dynamics of the story, especially with how her personality is and how it contrasts Yuji so heavily, and it would bring a nice balance back into his life. And like, you know, this is a part of the story I think where she would particularly shine. But I also see your point that she probably won't be coming back, but you know, a girl can dream. Concerned with binding vows in JJK. I guess I can see how it can annoy some people when reading the story. To say it out loud, if I make a manga, I will think of your videos. No, I think it's good. Like, just some guy. I think that's good. You know, like if you take away, this is all about learning, right? Like I am not right about everything. You are not right about everything. I think that if we learn from each other and we keep an open mind, and we learn from each other, that's a very, very good thing to do. I think that's an A+ thing for you to do. And that is not a bad thing at all whatsoever. You know, if you watch that video and you learned something, you shouldn't be ashamed of not knowing something that you didn't know beforehand. You should be proud of yourself for learning something, you know? Hello, I just got here. Apologies in advance for what I said in your thread about the tea over coffee. Hey, Pink. Look, you know, you can have your preferences. I won't judge you harshly. Hey, Adriana, I was just talking about you earlier. How I called you and I was like, does my theory make sense? Because it's her birthday and that's my wishful thinking. Oh God, that would be great. I would love for Nobara to come back. I was hurt for real, for real. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Oops. I didn't even open my water bottle. Okay, so let's get started. This is like the portion that I cut out of my video because it's already 6,000 words long. And my last video that was 6,000 words long was 45 minutes long. So let's get started. I cut out, so for backstory, if you're just getting here, I cut out 2,000 words out of my script of a video that's coming out sometime the next couple of weeks. And I was like, you know what? It's 1 a.m. I'm going to rant about it on Twitter and then I'm going to forget about it because nobody's going to see it. And oh boy, did Twitter pick it up. Okay, so I'm just going to read out the tweets in case you can't see it, in case it's too small. I'm just going to read out what it says on Twitter. So, okay, TL is asleep. I'm going to finally say it. The fact that Gege planned this twist and this whole thing hinged on the technicality of the word anyone is dumb as shit. It was the twist planned out from the very beginning, and he still didn't conceive of a better reason. Means he wrote himself into a corner with binding vows, which I've never ever actually given any consequences to anyone in the manga. Binding vows have just been a constant deus ex machina get out of jail free cards for JJK. Need a spy in Jujutsu High? Binding vow trade-off. Need to explain how Hikari survives a fight? Binding vow. Need to explain how Sukuna gets to do a jailbreak? You get the point. I think Gege is so afraid of being forward with his story beats and plots that he is unnecessarily being obtuse in his storytelling to the detriment of it. And many writers who serialize media fall into this, not just Gege. Anyway, you got this Twitter rant because I cut this entire segment out of my video. Anyway, here's your reminder before you angrily type that yes, I can still like JJK and criticize it at the same time. People very much do not think that. Yes, that does make sense. And Pink, sorry, tea is superior to coffee. So that is the general gist of what happened. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, so long as you do it respectfully, we're all good. Like, I don't care if you disagree with me. If you disagree with me, I would love to hear the reasons why. You know, like, I'm not here to be like, I'm always right and I'm always just going to be right. And I'm not going to hear anybody else. But, you know, I'm just right all the time. You know, I'm often wrong about a lot of things. And I think that's part of, like, I don't know, being a human, being a person that exists on this like planet. But I think everybody like on this Twitter thread took this as like oh, you're just wrong, but you're insisting that you're right. One thing that has bothered me is how common reverse curse technique is for healing. Used to be a thing 102 able to do, not every character can use it. Kind of lame. I haven't thought of that. I haven't really, yeah. That is true. I haven't quite like thought of how the shift from like, oh, Shoko is super special because she's a healer, to so many people can use reverse curse technique. They're just going to heal themselves up. Yeah. I'm back now because Gege said either one lives, everyone else dies, or one dies, everyone lives, and option one seems more likely. So we're going to kill her again. That would be fucked up, Sleeping Danger. Stop downplaying yourself. Silly boy. That's nice of you to say, but I am wrong a lot. I just do a lot of research and I'm still wrong sometimes. Yeah, so, okay. Highlight some of the constructive disagreement interactions you had in your tweet. Role model issues serve as you remarked upon earlier. Yeah, I have so many tabs open. You can't see it because it's cut off on the top, but I have a ton of tabs open. So these are all the quote retweets of this tweet, and we're going to go through it all. First, I want to just give a shout out to the person who is like, that's funny. Sorry. So I just want to give a shout out to this person who was like, interesting thread. Personally, I think the play on anyone hugely falls into Yuji's own character. He didn't view himself as needing to be saved. And that all ties into his cog mentality and the curse his grandfather gave him. I think this person had like a really good point. Yeah. I think this person had a really good point. I think the main thing is that like people thought that I was discounting Yuji's character development, which I'm not. I think that there are many instances where Yuji as a character has been developed in a way that he's like, I'm not a person, I'm a cog in the machine, I'm this, I'm that, I only exist for this, I will willingly die for this cause, you know, etc., blah, blah, blah. I understand that. Bro, it's not obtuse. Like, that is the point. Like, we all understand that. We get that. I have always thought that Akutami's character writing is so incredibly strong and that I admire Akutami's character writing. I do. Like, there is a reason why I started making JJK and the reason making JJK videos, and the reason why my first JJK video ever was my video on Geto, because like in terms of what really compels me about Jujutsu Kaisen, it's the characters. Oh, you can't see that because of my camera. But if you like don't know, my first video was about Geto. Like, my first video was what Geto truly lost, because like as a character, Geto was so compelling to me that I just had to write about him. Like, I think that Gege's writing is top notch, and I do say that in all of these responses. But I think there is a part of Gege's writing, which is his plot writing, that really falls short comparison to how great he is at character writing versus how his plot writing, his pacing, whatever else is. You know, like there's a part of Gege's writing that falls flat because his character writing is so good. It's so much more evident when the plot isn't particularly keeping up with how good his characters are. Yuta and Gojo could use reverse curse technique, which makes sense. They're top of the food chain, but it's now so common, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to look back and see like how it really changed. But yeah, I do get the sense that you're right, because I feel like I have seen reverse curse technique more often. I'm always right if you ignore the times when I'm wrong. That's the spirit. Good point that I can see. I have to say the Sukuna did see what he was doing as a gamble and laughing at when it worked. I don't think it was a risk. Oh, absolutely not. That's the thing. I think that what Sukuna did was obviously a gamble. There are people arguing. You'll see later on. There are people arguing with me about that. You're gonna punch the Yamen out of Sukuna. Also, this tweet is fucking hilarious. Sai simply put it, nah. Oh my god, there's so many more quote retweets. There was way less quote retweets when I first started. Okay, so there's way more quote retweets now, but I guess we're gonna go through what I have open. let's first go through what I have open, and then, you know, we'll do this. And then this is actually one of the first people to respond to me. So Ren, you know, shout out for being a sane and rational human being, because I responded to this in a quote retweet on my profile. I can't speak. And we're far down. We're scrolling. Yeah. So I responded with this. I think that the intent, it's definitely the intent that it shows that Gege is good enough at writing to build up Yuji's character to the point where we can rationalize this. But his plot writing, like I said before, pales heavily in comparison to his character writing, which is what this aspect of the plot twist relies upon. It makes the poor development of this part of the plot very, very evident, and is saved by his diligent character writing. I feel like this plot point should have really been refined because of how pivotal it is to the story. Notice how, like, I have a tendency to speak very, very, like, fluffy in turn, not fluffy, but like I have a very, like, I talk a lot. I talk a lot, and I talk in a very detailed way. As you all have seen, you've watched. If you're here, you've probably watched some of my videos. I get very nitty gritty into the detail. And I think the reason why things like this tweet blow up is because when I'm not like super duper analyzing the manga like I do here, people are all of a sudden like given those avenues. It's like when you misspell something in a TikTok and all of the comments are like, you misspelled something, you must be a fucking idiot. Have you ever read a book? Yeah, so I think when I do something a lot less nuanced like this, it blows up because it gives people opportunities to be like, hey, you're bad at this. And I go, well, I write things like this and people don't see it, you know, because there's not much room to be like, gotcha, you know. So that's just one of those things about Twitter. Would flourish outside of Shonen Jump. Feel like JJK has been shifting towards more typical Shonen, but I guess editors have been influencing the series negatively. You think so? How many? I'm gonna close this one, telling me to like, yeah. Let's see. I don't. How much influence do like mangaka editors have on them and what gets published? Because I truly don't know. This is like a legit question. If JJK is currently predictable, you must be playing 5D chess. It's unpredictable, but doesn't mean it's logical enough. So it's an inherent medium of Twitter. Oh, yeah. Emmanuel, Twitter is such a problematic platform, but people love it. People love Twitter. So if you want your name to be out there, you got to be on Twitter. And people's mistakes when they're generalized, it's a Twitter moment for real. They can have a lot. They can have a lot of what? Yeah. I don't think, yeah, the thing that's my thing with JJK. I was talking to my roommate about this, and she made me aware of this quote that one of her favorite authors have, and it's that if you are, so the quote was that if you're writing a story and you're writing it well, at the end of the day, your audience should know what is going to happen in the story, because that means that you've laid out the plot points and the foreshadowing appropriately to tell them and guide them through the story. You know, it like, I think Gege has a bit of a style of obtuse writing where he's trying to hide so many things from us that it's kind of becoming not unbearable, but it's becoming a problem. I think that Gege is so scared that people will figure out what's going to happen in Jujutsu Kaisen that he's like specifically like making things harder to figure out, like Sukuna and Kenjiku speaking in like half sentences all the time. Like he's instilling the idea there, but he never gives us like anything full to like cling on to, which is like, I don't know if it's just because this is Gege's like first big manga, it's like growing pains or whatever, but I think that like there needs to be a little bit more trust between like the reader and the mangaka. But that's just my opinion. Let's see. Men, they're generally See, depends on the editor and publisher. When a single notable death in the Culling games, even opponents in cast phase have not died. It's not a good sign for the series when there's no consequences in big battles. I agree with that. I think, you know what? I think that's my issue with, to like go on a tangent here for a second. That's my issue with binding vows. I feel like so many people, and you'll see this later down in the thread, is that people are rationalizing binding vows as like this tricky thing where you just really got to know the wording to get it right and to get what you want out of it. And I'm like, that's cheap. And maybe people might disagree with me. People might be like, well, no, it's smart of the character. But I think we have to break the fourth wall here a little bit and just be like, Gege is writing this manga. Like, there is a singular human being writing this manga who is going like, okay, this is when those exceptions will apply so that the plot can move forward. And that's fine, honestly. But let's not be under the assumption or under the guise of this being like, oh, well, this is just... Let's not be under the guise that this is just like a great thing, that this is super well thought out. Like, the fact that no huge like thing ever came, like huge consequence ever came out of a binding vow really lowers the stakes for any binding vow going forward, right? Like, and I'll get to the heavenly restriction bit in a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, but that's just my issue, is like the stakes for a binding vow don't feel that serious to me anymore. Like, nobody's ever suffered from a breaking a binding vow or like using a binding vow. Like, it's all been positive. Love Twitter. Just look at who I follow and don't touch replies and then I leave. You're a better person than I am, Sleeping Danger. Completely different from the Shibuya incident arc. Shonen Jump doesn't tend to see series of like Shibuya. Jujutsu Kaisen went from sorcery fight to murder mystery with magic in between. Genuinely, I think that the Culling game arc deserves more respect. People consider this arc setup. It's got to be the coldest setup ever. I like the Culling game arc. I think there are times when it could be a little bit more tight in terms of the fights. But I like the parts that we got where we got plot and lore a lot. Those were probably one of my favorite moments. Some editors are known for ruining series and have been celebrated when they leave. Oh my god, really? So I kind of wanted someone to die in the Kashimo versus Sakari fight. It was so huge, then everyone just lives. Yeah, that felt bad, Readwell. I think I don't have any complex thoughts about that. I think it felt bad. I think the problem with shonen is that they have their power systems are only focused on the insane possibilities instead of restrictions. I have to think about that one. I have to think about that because I feel like I haven't read enough shonen to make that distinction. But if you want to give me some examples, like off the top of your head, I'd love to hear them. It's like legal like attitude to binding vows. If you can figure out the contract doesn't denotatively include, you can work it out, adds to the cleverness in some ways, IMO. Yeah, I can see that, but I think that when it's like, well, he did include himself in anyone, you know. At Yuki's death, Tengen is probably gone. Megumi and Maki killed their opponents. Yuta killed 2 out of the 4 of his opponents. I think Yuki, again, I made a video about it. Yuki and Tengen are definitely very, very, it's not the same. Genuinely, just because Tengen was like Yuki. Yeah, Yuki was a big death, which I was very upset about. And I think Tengen doesn't particularly count because we knew that it was coming, and that the Yuta ones are all right. Like, nobody like in the existing cast died. You know, new people died, which I think is a lot easier to stomach. But I do understand why, because we just came out of Shibuya. So I understand why there's not as much death in the Culling game, because it's like if you kill off that many characters, it's like it's gonna be hard. So I understand why. And I don't fault Gege for that. Binding vow, you must be reading something else. Well, tell me about the consequences of a binding vow. Like Kurapika's, where your curse stats are more effective against Gojo, but you can't use curse energy against anyone else or you'll die. Yeah. Oh my god, Readwell. I think that might be why. Like, I genuinely think that might be why I feel this way about binding vows in JJK, is because I read Hunter x Hunter and I love Kurapika. I did my Patreon /Discord/ like YouTube members Q&A, and somebody asked me who my favorite Hunter x Hunter character is, and it's Kurapika, because Kurapika's story is so compelling, and the way that he puts himself at risk. I don't want to spoil anything, but the way that his power works literally actively hurts him, but he doesn't care because of his really strong desire to like get all of the eyes of his clan back and get his entire like revenge on the people who killed and massacred his clan. And it's like, that feels good. Like, it doesn't feel good. Like, I don't want that for Kurapika. Like, I'm not some sort of like sadist where I'm like, I love it when Kurapika suffers. But I think the stakes there are real. Like, when I read those parts of Hunter x Hunter, I feel anxiety. I feel stressed. I feel sad. I think that's a really good example of like stakes in my brain that feel very, very real and very, very almost like, yeah, it feels very real and it's very impactful. Yeah, we still haven't, but my name is still one has broken it yet. No one could suffer from it. With Kenny, so not wanting to break it means it's serious. Yeah, it's serious, but I think, you know, like when you get away with it on technicalities, which we have seen multiple times, I feel like it waters down how serious it really is. And, you know, when Sukuna gets away with saying, oh, Yuji didn't include himself in anyone, when, you know, the actual words were said by him, you know, like, he was the one who proposed that he wouldn't hurt anybody in that 1 minute span. And if people, my issue is that, yes, Yuji himself is very, very much a character that is self-sacrificing. He's ready to die. He wants that. Okay, I get it. Yuji might not view himself in that, but why isn't it that the counter argument is made that Sukuna proposed anybody? And in his view, I'm fairly sure he means anybody, like anybody, you know, like in Sukuna's psyche, he's not like, oh, anybody, but the exception is Yuji. My issue is that it's like people are so eager to believe that Yuji is this, doesn't believe he's anybody, which is fine. That's not my issue with this. Like like I said, this is what saved that particular plot point. But if you're going to argue that Yuji didn't believe he was anybody, it was like, you also have to then argue that Sukuna doesn't believe he's anybody. Does that make sense? Let's see. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. That's one series I haven't read yet or watched yet, but it's on my list. The editors have a lot of influence over a series. They want to cater to a particular demographic, and Bleach is Kube's example of this. Oh, yeah. No, I heard about that because I was reading Bleach and I was like, why does the last arc of Bleach feel like they were rushing him to end it? Because it felt like Kubo had so much more to write when I finished Bleach, and it felt genuinely like they just wanted it to end. Whereas Kubo felt like he was trying to get all of the stories that he wanted to write about squeezed into the limited amount of like volumes he had left. That sucked, but I think Kubo made the best out of it. Dead. Wondering if Yuki is really dead. Sukuna is neither cursed nor human, and Gojo mentions Sukuna did die. With all the research Yuki did, wonder if she knows how to become like Sukuna. I don't know. I think she was really focused on like heavenly restriction as her research. And again, we don't know because we didn't really get told too much about her research. Yuki hurts me every time. I was a special grade relegated to getting cooked for 3 chapters, then dying and doing no damage. I cry every time. Hopium, she will return. Yeah, I feel the same way. Self-binding vows essentially allow you to do anything, just like sacrifice all cursed energy in your body parts and trade off. You can gain any power, immortality, Toji powers. Yeah, and I think self-binding vows are very cheesy. I don't like them. I don't see why Gege would make Yuki a star platinum vessel for no reason. I think there's more to it. I can see that. Yeah, no, you have a good point there. I think that there's definitely something there. And maybe like Gege planned it all along. And we're just going to see what he decides to cut, because it does genuinely seem like Gege is racing to the finish line. I don't think Yuki is a major character at all. She was one of the special four, which is cool, but we barely saw anything from her. She was never going to beat Kenjiku, to be honest. I don't think she would ever beat Kenjiku either, but the fact that she ended up in that position anyway, again, imperative of the writing. The whole calling game was created because of a binding vow, and the exchange event happened because of a binding vow. 10 million curses released. Where released the binding vow of a curse. I believe that when Kenjiku said that when he took that body on, something about his binding vows. I'd have to look that one up. But, you know, binding vows have been a utility and not a stake. And I think we could all agree on that. And if not, I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to react to a bunch of tweets that people sent me because they're mad at me. Someone had to turn into a curse. Feeling them include himself. Why would Sukuna include himself in the vow if he wants to escape? So Yuji's interpretation matters here. Well, it doesn't, like, Sukuna's not removed from, he's not above language. Does that make sense? Like, if I said to somebody, like, don't hurt anyone here, that doesn't mean, like, don't hurt anyone here except for that one guy who I really want you to hurt. You know, Sukuna's not above language. That's Kubo had injury with his shoulder. Yeah, I wish it would just maybe have gone on hiatus. I didn't know Kubo had a head injury. I knew he was like ill, but I didn't know of what. Because thought Yuji cared a lot about himself and didn't want Yuji to think too much about the potential future plans of his death. The main thing hampering my Yuki hopium is she turned herself to a black hole. Hope she does survive. When used right now, bounding vice when used creative curse techniques. Is there Japanese English disconnect here? I've thought of that too. I have thought of that, and I don't know Japanese, so this is what we have. Anyway, I'm gonna get back to reading angry tweets about me. So this person apparently said, not gonna listen to the same person with that female character's rant video that drove me into depression. That's a big that's a big thing for me to be responsible for, to drive somebody into depression. I did respond to them. I said, see, if you actually watched the video, you would know that I talked about how well written they are, and the trajectories of their plots were really what was disappointing. But I guess simplifying on Twitter is easy and you just want to hate. And then they never responded. But, you know, I made them depressed, so I guess I'm a bad person. Okay, so this one said, the fact that you've ignored Yuji's empathy plus mental health issues makes this criticism shallower than a bottle top. Sukuna explained how binding vows where it's a pretty strict agreement with big consequences if broken. Sukuna knowing very well that Yuji didn't include himself in the binding vow, biding his time and exploiting it, the perfect opportunity to both get what he wants and hurt Yuji, is an excellent show of both of their characters, but y'all got dissolved cotton candy for brain cells. I have a few issues with this. One being it's very it's very aggressive. But you know, like, it's Twitter. But here's the thing. Sukuna didn't know anything. Sukuna made an educated guess. And good on Sukuna, you know, like, part of him is like outsmarting his enemy, whatever. the thing is, yeah, it is a pretty strict it's a pretty strict agreement if and there's consequences and if it's broken. And Sukuna said specifically that he is taking a chance. And people want to argue that it's like he knew that Yuji didn't include himself. No, he didn't. He was taking a chance on that because the alternative is to just be caged up in Yuji. But yeah, I think that this is giving Sukuna way too much credit. Sukuna is a good character. We know Sukuna has been thoroughly defined for us as who he is. And I think that it's actually a disservice to be like Sukuna knew everything, therefore what he did was really, really fucking smart. No, I think Sukuna took a risk and Sukuna knew it could have gone badly, but the alternative is much, much worse, which is just to sit here and do nothing and be trapped in his cage, you know? So time finally came for him to become strong enough. And I think that I don't understand particularly why Jujutsu Kaisen fandom is rejecting this idea of stakes. It's very, very strange to me that the fandom is actively rejecting the idea that something could have stakes, that their characters need to be perfect, and they not foreshadowed, but they saw this coming, that these characters knew exactly what they were doing. I don't understand why that needs to be the case. And I think that's large in part of what the disconnect is between me and the fandom on Twitter, is that like, why do people think that Sukuna needs to know everything for this to have been a good thing to do? Like, Sukuna took a risk, and those stakes are far more interesting than Sukuna knowing everything and then just acting because he knew everything. And I think that people need to be okay with the idea that their characters aren't perfect. Like, their favorite characters aren't perfect. And sometimes there's a risk and they don't know everything, because if they knew everything, the story would suck. Like your discussion with Broken Ronin. Yeah, I think that that was one of the most sane discussions I had today. Wonder what the dynamic between Sukuna and Kenjiku will be. I'm sure Sukuna isn't willing to abide by Kenjiku's plan. That's going to be covered in my next video, so I'm not going to say anything about it. To directly address your tweet, however, the binding vow is just Yuji's way of Sukuna not hurting other people. So Yuji thinking of himself as a cog, two things sort of hold up. I see that. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't. I think it's just not great. I think it's just, it could have been better. It was kind of weak, you know? Which part of Sukuna's plan was the gamble, hurting Yuji or possessing Megami? I think the more sure thing was Megami, because Sukuna recognized it so early on, which I think is why I'm so confused about Twitter thinking that that was the gamble, because I'm like, he knew, he like clocked Megami. He was like, oh, I think he has the potential to be a vessel and not a cage like Yuji. And that's why he waited all this time. And that was, the thing is, it's like, it's really backwards, because he had this whole calculated thing about Yuji and not Yuji, of Megami, and he carefully plotted against Megami, and the fandom is just throwing that away as like, that was the gamble. He gambled away, like, he gambled his chances at like Megami. And it's like, yeah, it's a stretch. It might be like a risk. That's the word I was looking for. It might be a risk, but it's not the gamble that like breaking the binding vow is, because he knew he had been preparing for this whole time. Give him some credit. Give him the credit he deserves for plotting out this whole entire scenario within his like cage. Like, give Sukuna the credit for being smart about the whole Megami thing. Don't discount that as the part of the gamble. I think that's what's like really like so confusing to me about the whole Twitter discussion, is that like Sukuna was diligent about the whole Megami thing. Like, to the point where he went and saved him from like him summoning Maharaga, and like there was that, he was waiting specifically for the moment when Tsumiki was going to come. And it's like, I'm not going to get too much into it because I cover all this shit in my next video, but like, just, yeah. Do you see himself as a cog pre-Shibuya? That's a good question. I don't think so. I definitely don't think so. I think he was like, he felt very naive because he had that whole scene. He had that whole scene in the Fearsome Moon arc where he was like, I am going to die here and it sucks and I was not prepared for this and I'm very afraid. And I think that when they made the binding vow, you're right. I don't think he viewed himself as a cog. I think that came later on. That's a good point. Pulls another OP technique out of his ass and one-shots Sukuna. I don't think that'll happen, but who knows? Yuji, let's see. Since Sukuna from the beginning was out of hurt others, was Yuji's objective around people being hurt, and Sukuna clearly knew this and fed into it. Isn't a genius, however, but yeah. I know Hunter x Hunter is one of your favorite anime series, so I was curious on your thoughts of the manga going monthly and not part of being shown on Jump Plus instead of weekly magazine. I think right now, whatever Tagashi Sensei needs, he is like wildly ill. Like he has like so many issues with his back. It's like, I am at the point where it's like, I hope he's not hurting himself to write this manga. That's where I'm at, honestly. I think one of the reasons why Sukuna took the gamble, there are still 5 fingers left, so he will have a backup. Sukuna's omnipotent, except for all the times proven that he isn't. In the comments for Fatal Misogyny video, I participated in a healthy dialogue with dialects, how embracing too soon contradicts means media mental health. Yeah, that was a great conversation we had. Do I read Chainsaw Man? I do. I'm not up to date right now. Who do you see as the final boss, Sukuna or Kenjiku? Kenjiku. But yeah, so that's my issue with that tweet. I was like, that tweet isn't giving enough credit over to Sukuna, but also like weirdly being like, yeah, Sukuna knew it all along, but I don't know. This was just a weird tweet. I already went on my long ramble about this. That's a good point, Readwell. I think you have a point there. Yeah, so this one. Oh, these are the people. This is the person that started bashing me for my TikToks as well. Love that. So let's see. I'm kind of annoyed because the technicality of anyone not including Yuji directly reflects Yuji's lack of self-care and appreciation. Even when Sukuna made the suggestion, he meant anyone except Yuji, and Yuji didn't make that distinction due to his personality. And it's like, fine, okay. It's been detailed for so long. Sukuna had a deep interest in Megami. And here's the thing. I didn't talk about anything that had to do with Megami. And this person going, it's been detailed for so long that Sukuna had a deep interest in Megami, and we just saw an arc, a bunch of people's personalities got taken over in the culling game. There are plenty of points you can complain about, but this is just sad. I never spoke about Megami. I don't know where this came from, where I was like, Sukuna never had anything deep and no deep interest in Megami. People are, the thing with like Twitter discourse that really is so annoying is that like people just start putting words into my mouth that I never said. This is an example of that. Like, I never said this. I just simply never said this. Like, I never said that Sukuna didn't have an interest in Megami. I didn't mention Megami in any of this. Let's see. Yeah, that was weird, Devin. It was very weird that Angel was like, yeah, I'll accept the hug from you. Yuji's power up will be explained. Somehow keep up with Maki while injured. Yeah, again, part of the video that's coming up right now. Okay, here. Oh, good. Yeah. It's great that people are like, they don't think I have any analytical skills when I'm like, well, I guess the 40 Jujutsu Kaisen videos I've made really just fucking tanked, man. Like, I've clearly never analyzed anything ever in my fucking life. Oh, and the fact that my fucking TikTok is also legitimately just analyzing Jujutsu Kaisen too. Oh, fuck. Apparently, I've never analyzed anything in my life ever. Anyway, And people really took an issue with binding vows being a deus ex machina. And it's like, let me see like a really, really impactful binding vow consequence. L plus ratio, you fell off. Fuck. I gotta end the live stream then. I fell off. Megan, we didn't care about Yuji. I'm fairly sure that TikTok was more nuanced than that, but you know, whatever. I don't care to argue that. Do you mean Kirara? Yeah. Oh my god, it's this guy. Hang on. This guy that was like, I think he like quote tweeted it and said I had some sort of agenda because I made the misogynist video. And it's like, I'm fairly sure 99% of the people commenting on Twitter about that video didn't actually watch the video, because I was never like, Gege Akutami is a misogynist. I was like, internalized misogyny is present in everybody and it affects the art that you read on a day-to-day basis. And this has been an issue in manga for a long time. But people are like, yeah, I hate her because she said the word misogyny. Agendas. We love agendas. Yeah. I love that this is the distinction. It's like, if you read shoujo and BL, you can never be a misogynist. Like, and I'm not saying, I don't think Gege is a misogynist. I don't. I also never said Gege is a misogynist. Oh, God. Vapid. I don't think this person knows what vapid means. Okay. And then we have very surface way to look at that binding vow. And it was just like, show me the stakes, man. Show me the stakes. Yeah, DJ was actually, again, one of the more like rational human beings that I talk to. And I understand this point. We're beating a dead horse here, but you know, like DJ actually went and it was like, yeah, actually your explanation here makes sense. And then we shook hands and we were like, cool, that's it. That's the conversation. You read the words that I said like a normal human being with like literacy, and then we moved on like adults. Shout out to DJ. Yeah, we already went over this. We went over that. This is the same one who is like, you can't be a misogynist if you read shoujo and BL. Okay. And then I think the reason why this got so much traction is because the Broken Ronin retweeted it. Which one is this? Oh yeah, this I had this open, but I'm just gonna go over this very briefly because I don't want to read this whole thing. I know I said I was reacting to it, but I don't want to read this whole thing. So this person, yeah, didn't include himself in the binding vow, and it's just like, from here on, it's a gamble. And then he proceeds to rip off the finger. Like, I shouldn't have to say from here on, right? And then like have to denote to you that this is a gamble. Like, this is a gamble. And it's like, this person's like, by a gamble, he meant Megami will be able to host him. Nothing to do with his binding vow. Like, I don't know how to say that, like, he says it there and then proceeds to do an action, and then somebody else goes, well, that doesn't count. And I'm like, how do I argue with stupid? Like, I just can't. Like, this is a stupid response. And it has 4 likes for some reason. There's 4 other people who thought that that was a good response. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but Sukuna literally says from here on is a gamble, and then rips off his finger and then celebrates the fact that Yuji wasn't included in the binding vow. Am I like going crazy here? Because I feel like when I read that, I was like, this is pretty evident. I saw binding vows in manga. I knew it could become a problem in the future if they can be used by anyone. Yeah, I think I got spoiled by Hunter x Hunter, where there was a lot of issues and a lot of stakes the vows brought about. and I just thought it would be the same. I wonder how much of the words in your mouth comes from the layout of Twitter, misappropriating other people's comments to you. Maybe I'm being too generous. How much of the words in maybe. I think Twitter has been pretty good now about like ordering things in the right way and like when people wrote it. Not gonna lie, Giga allegations are funny as hell. Gamble is Megami. I mean, like, I think Megami was the more well prepared, more researched part of this. Like, he saw Megami and was like, I can make him my vessel. And even Kenjiku says that, like, Sukuna can pick his vessel. Like, that was a thing that was said in chapter 51. I don't fucking remember. But that was the thing that Kenjiku says, is that Sukuna can pick his vessel. And I think that the vessel here is less of a gamble than the actual heavenly restriction, especially because of what Kenjiku said. I think that with the whole Megami thing, he prepared well enough and he put all of these things in the right order for him to be able to take over Megami. Like, Megami was a little bit of a gamble, yes. But I don't think it was as big of a gamble as everybody thinks it is. Because this Megami was like a well-executed plan. Like, the whole thing about Megami was a well-executed plan. It was very smart from Sukuna. He saw this from the very beginning. He made arrangements for it. He planned accordingly. And then we arrived here at this point, you know? Like, that was a good, smart plan. And that's literally just how I see it. I just think that was a good plan from Sukuna. That's why I have no issues with that. I have zero issues with the fact that Megami was taken over, because I was like, yeah, Sukuna has been planning this whole fucking time. You know, like, I think that was the best part of what was written. Like, it was well foreshadowed within the story. So I don't understand why people think that part is the gamble. You should actually react to criticism, not some dumb comments. I think it's interesting how people believe JJK is 100% unimpeachable. I think that people finding imperfections are bad at analysis because think what they think. Yeah. That's been like the debate for such a long time now, where I'm kind of like, why do people not realize that I still really love JJK, despite the fact that I find some faults in it, you know? I'm about to at you in something that is factual. Okay. Sukuna force feeding Megami was the moment of all time. Yeah, I think that was a well written arc. I don't understand why people are like, that's the gamble. Like, no. Sukuna planned that whole thing. Sukuna planned that thing from like chapter 6. Sukuna has been working on that thing that whole time. And it's almost a disservice to him, as much as I hate to be like, give Sukuna the credit he deserves. He's a terrible person. A terrible curse. But like, that whole thing with Megami was like probably one of the most sure things. Who knows? Like, he stacked the deck in his favor, essentially. Seeing how the female kind of remind you of your current video, and I completely agree with you. I haven't seen Attack on Titan. Just don't spoil me. I haven't seen it. This entire plan in general, yeah, no, I could agree with that. But I think that in terms of like behavior of Binding Vow or Megami, I think the Megami one was more well planned. Feel free to disagree with me. Again, I'm not gonna hold it against you. Funny thing is, the most Ex Machina thing, but clearly the biggest gamble is Megami. That Binding Vow was so clear cut. The tweet has been sent. All right, let's go over this one real quick. Inner Hikari. Well, I think the whole thing of Kenjiku saying, let me see. The whole thing of Kenjiku saying that Sukuna can pick his vessel is all the foreshadowing we needed for the Megami thing to be less of a gamble. Like this trajectory feels very natural, if that makes sense. Like once I looked back and actually or is it chapter 17? And I'm thinking, yeah, I think it was chapter 17, not chapter 51. The whole thing of Megami feels so much more well, like foreshadowed. Like it didn't feel like, I don't fucking remember where it is, but Kenjiku at one point says that like Sukuna can pick his vessel. And I think that, I don't know, maybe those are like far more concrete for me than anything else. And maybe everybody was like, yeah, Yuji's character dictates this, but it's like, this is like, it takes a two to tango thing. You know what I mean? Like Sukuna can't just go like cross my fingers behind my back. Anyone doesn't include Yuji, you know? Like I think that's disingenuous and not in him. Like I don't think Sukuna's like a particularly like moral person, but I think it's just disingenuous in the storytelling. Like I don't think that you can just be like, well, Sukuna definitely wouldn't have included Yuji in it because he knew what he was planning. But it was like, was that foreshadowed? Was Sukuna's half of this thing foreshadowed? Like, was it ever been like Sukuna doesn't view Yuji as a person, as anybody? You know, that's where it falls flat for me. And for people, like, again, I don't care if you think that it's good. I don't care. You can think it's good. I'm not trying to tell you to think it's bad. I am not here to convince you to think it's bad. I think that Yuji's characterization arc is great. My issue is with Sukuna and the way that his words were what propelled the binding vow. Anyway, like you can think what you want. I think people get really so in the weeds that I write something and they immediately think like she thinks she's right. Just my fucking opinion, bro. Risked his life against Maharaga to save Megami. Yeah, I think it's pretty sure about the Megami part. Yeah. Like there's so many things that point to the whole Megami thing happening. I don't think anyway. We'll be happy the conclusion of the manga next. Bro, I hope it's not 30 to 35 chapters. Do you really? Surely JJK is not ending in 35 chapters, right? In Shonen Plus, like CSM. I don't know. I think Gege is ready to leave Jujutsu Kaisen behind. I think he has like a tight ending that he wants to do, and that's it. Is folks that divorce their emotional experience from the quality of the media, finding imperfections received as being told their emotions aren't valid and they lash out. No, I think you have a good point there. I see that, but that's definitely not my intent, and I know you know that. I feel like more Yuji's not seeing himself as someone who would matter since he was prioritizing saving others. I agree, not showing things and then coming up with a MacGuffin or something fixed later is not great writing. 30 or 40 chapters left? Like actually fucking serious? Wow. All right. Yeah. No, I think people immediately like saw my thread and was like, oh, this bitch doesn't think that Yuji's character development was good. She's never read the fucking manga and Yuji doesn't have a character arc, blah, blah, blah. I think that's what people immediately thought. And it's like, where did I mention Yuji? Yuji. I never mentioned Yuji once. I did not mention Yuji at all whatsoever in this thread. And people are putting words into my mouth about how I like perceive Yuji. I didn't mention him. This isn't a thread about Yuji. This is a thread about like the technical writing of this plot point. Lie, so I hope it's longer. Yeah, manga can lie all the fucking time. But I hope he's lying and I hope it'll be longer because I think, you know, unless he has a very tight ending planned out, I guess I could see it ending in 30 or 40 chapters, but I'm not going to speculate because I know nothing. Yeah, so there's the vessel part. There's like fighting an unbreakable doll. Like that one's a little bit tenuous for me. Vessel, yeah. And like referring to him as a vessel. These are all very tenuous. There's better. I think there's better examples of this. Like when Yuji refers himself to a cog. Like if you're really trying to argue about Yuji's humanity, like referring to himself as a cog is a big one. I think that you shouldn't leave that one out. Yeah, it's a vessel, but all vessels are people too. Like that's a tenuous like connection to it. I don't think that being referred to as a vessel necessarily hammers home the point. But this is a much bigger YouTuber than I am, so obviously people are going to gravitate and be like, he's right. But that's not to say Broken Ronin was like leveraging his following against me. He's not. I think he did have valid points, and I think he was very receptive to actually talking about it. But there's definitely the sense that like a bigger YouTuber quote retweeted your tweet, and then everybody who sees that is like, I gotta dunk on this bitch. So yeah, we talked about it, and I tell him I address it here. And you know, good character. This is the one point I disagree with: is that good character writing makes good plot writing. It doesn't. These two aren't separate things that don't connect. It's a continuously interlocking dynamic that makes these things have meaning. The Unchained plot twist doesn't even mainly hinges Sukuna coming out, primarily hinges on the intent of Sukuna, which leaves him incarnating in Megami's body. But to your first point, you are right. Good character writing doesn't excuse anything else. But the specific instance is pretty clear that the writing gives the plot point substance. I agree and disagree with this. I think that good character writing does not necessarily make good plot writing, but good character writing can prop up weaker plot writing in a way to make it better. And I think that's what's happening with Jujutsu Kaisen. Like, I've made this point in my last video where I was like, hey, Chainsaw Man has great plot writing, but weaker character writing. In terms of like the writing, the preferred writing avenues and like pathways, Fujimoto prefers plot writing over character writing. It's just evident with how many characters he killed. Like, the characters exist to serve the plot. So I think that in this case, good character writing saved the okay plot writing. You know, I think that in terms of this whole thing, like, good character writing is helping prop up Jujutsu Kaisen to be a really compelling manga anime in this space. And I don't deny that. I've never denied that. In fact, I think I've like sang Gege's praises about it, you know? Good character writing to the point it overshadows the need for a good plot setting is peak manga to me, at least. And I think that's why a lot of people like JJK. Yeah. A lot of characters die in Chainsaw Man. So it's like a lot of what rides on Chainsaw Man is the plot writing. And I think that's where Fujimoto feels most comfortable. And Gege feels most comfortable in character writing. But characters also, you know, have to exist in the plot. So they have to interact at some point or another. You know, you can have good characters and bad plot scenarios. Yuki. I think that was a very terrible plot arc for Yuki. I mean, did anybody think that the way that Yuki's story went was good? Like, in all seriousness, like, tell me now in the chat. Like, did you actually think that, like, building up this, like, mysterious, like, sorcerer, like, special grade sorcerer who was a former star plasma vessel, for her to die in that way, did you think that was, like, a good plot? If we combine Gege and Fujimoto, we get a god. We get somebody very mentally unstable. I think if we got more time with Yuki, it might have been okay. Yeah, but I think Gege is like racing toward the end. Would be enough for a solid, tight ending. I can't say because I don't know what's gonna happen. But I feel as if Gege is racing to the end and that he's trying to finish it in less than what we need. but that's just what I was feeling. Hey, King Drew. Yeah, that was pretty dirty. Yuki did nothing wrong. Yuki did nothing wrong. They propped her up as a manga badass with tons of potential, put her against the main villain. Yeah. And it was underwhelming. Yeah. So it's like, we can all agree with the fact that like good character writing can exist with bad plot writing, right? Like I understand this point of mine might be a little bit nitpicky, but it's just a fucking opinion. That's it. Oh yeah, this was a Yard clip that I'll talk about later if I do talk about it. Speed reading. I love that people assume automatically that I like speed read the manga. Like, she might be alive though. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that before. There's no she's saying, but I'm taking this chance to explain my point of view of why, from a writing standpoint, what Gege actually did is brilliant. All right, I'm listening. I'm listening. And Shane was a dual layered plot twist. Oh, this is the non-official translation. Okay. What she's arguing is the binding vow convenient with no consequence, which is false. She gave 3 examples. Muta vow with Mahito, Hakari in Tokyo 2, Sukuna within Shane. Yielded to massive consequences. Never specified who shouldn't lay a hand on students. Mahito made a vow, so they took advantage of that doing the job. I don't think this was a massive consequence, but I see what they're trying to say. Did they have pronouns in the bio? No. So they. Yeah, I think that this actually works against them. So it's I don't particularly think that this was a massive consequence. Like, he was never going to be like somebody they couldn't beat. Like, we see how powerful Kenjaku is, but they did benefit from it. It didn't allow Hanami to go into relatively unfazed, having not to worry about maneuvering around the students. Not only hurt Kama, consequences with being hurt. Okay. Hakari doesn't need much explaining. Protecting his body, lost an arm, still walking handicap, less strength until he is healed. The current consequence of that vow to himself. But I think the whole thing with Hakari is that like it was either his life or his left arm. Like, anybody would take that deal. You know what I mean? So it's not really that big of an issue. Sukuna is pretty straightforward. It led to Megami getting taken over and Hana getting mutilated. I think that people are equating the consequences of Sukuna being out to the consequences of the binding vow, which is not a one-to-one. Like, the binding vow is a very contained deal between the two of them, right? Like, the deal was that Sukuna gets out for a minute without hurting anybody. And then, you know, like, he doesn't hurt anybody and Yuji gets to go on living. That was the deal, you know? And it led to and this is true, it did lead to Megami and Hana getting mutilated. Those are consequences that, however, they aren't a result of the binding vow. Like, it wasn't that Sukuna broke the binding vow or Yuji broke a binding vow and Megami got taken over and Hana got mutilated. They're not correlated in that way. They're not a result of the other. All three of these have drastic consequences that go beyond affect overall plot, because Hanami was able to distract everyone, allowed for Mahito to retrieve 6 fingers and awaken the death painting wounds. Those fingers led to numerous amount of people dying once Yuji yeah, okay. And then this is the cleave scene where Inumaki lost his arm free as a result. Oh my god, this is so long. Sorry. I'm just gonna speed read through the rest of this because I have a lot of tweets to react to. I think that this person has a point. I think that this person... Okay, I think that there's a false equivalence here. Like, none of these are directly happening because of the binding vow. They are things that were facilitated by a binding vow, which is different. I think that people are getting confused with the fact that, like, binding vows themselves have a consequence. Like, if you break a binding vow, there is that over-looming consequence, and that's why sorcerers use it. And then the things that the binding vows facilitate are completely different. That's why I say that binding vows haven't yet had massive consequences. It's not that I don't think that binding vows have no plot relevance. It's that the plot relevance they have are the binding vows like used as a tool and not the binding vows actual consequences. Does that make sense? Like, am I going insane here? Let's see. Peace, visit a lot afterwards. I read most chapters like three or four times. The thing is, if you put Yuta in Yuki's, Gege is not doing him dirty. Manga fans' instinct if someone say they takes remotely to bring out the speed read allegations. Yeah, I get that a lot, all the time. Having good memory long term is so good for long foreshadowing moments manga anime. Commander Knight, good luck. Looking forward to the next video. It makes feel the moment once. It helps to read weekly series as it comes out. Being in the community will lead to stuff like that being brought up constantly. An arm versus a life is an insane deal. Imagine if that was an FMA. I've never read FMA, but from what I've learned about FMA on the very, very few things I know about it, yeah, an arm is nothing compared to his whole life. Like someone who just caught up on Unchained chapter might have forgot the binding vow. I'm always guilty of reading 150 chapters of a show in like 3 days and forgetting almost everything. Habit of rereading. Yeah, I reread everything pretty much. But yeah, this was my main issue with this take is that like, yes, binding vows have facilitated bad things to happen, you know, but we have never seen a binding vow consequence. Does that make sense? Like if I was holding like, this is a bad thing to say. I'm not going to say that. But like if I was like holding like a magical ball, you know, and I say that like, you better do as I say because I'm holding this magical ball and therefore I have power. And you do those things and those things happen to cause something bad to happen. That's not an effect of this. That is an effect of my influence over you. If this magical ball, say then, like explodes and, you know, harms people around me, that is a direct consequence of the magical ball. Like cause, like an effect is different here. Like I understand what this person's trying to say, but it is a very like, it is a very, very like I don't want to say it's disingenuous because it's not, but it takes my words and twists it in a way that like I don't understand the way that binding vows work, which is like I understand that they've had effects in the story. That's not what I mean. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. It would be easier if you just said you didn't like it. Not everything has to be deep. I actually, now that I think more about it, the thing that I didn't like was the way that the anyone bit was used. But the whole Megumi thing, after I read it back, I was like, oh yeah, this is very well foreshadowed. I swear we used to be so much smarter. Well, it's only because people only react to my very simplified tweets, but people don't ever interact with my tweets that are like well written. You know, like whenever I write like a well-written set of like tweets like this one, where I recognize all of these parts, people don't interact with it. So it's like good faith misinterpretation and understanding. Yeah, that's exactly it. But yeah, this person is just like, well, you're only seeing the things that people get mad about. Deus Ex Machina, do we have the consequences? This is insane. Like, do people really think that Hakari didn't get away with basically like nothing? Like, yeah, he lost his arm, but also he would have just died. Yeah, that is a big deal, Sandros. I think that it is a big deal that it's not Sukuna. Oh my god. Hakari can't cast his domain expansion anymore. But also, he would be dead, so he wouldn't be able to do anything. You know, I think people are forgetting that like he got away with his life. And for the many people that died in Jujutsu Kaisen, that died in Shibuya, that's huge. I would like to remind you all, Nanami is dead. He didn't get a binding vow out. He's fucking dead. I'm not new to the JJK fandom. I don't know if Yuta and Shoko could get his arm back. But yeah. Same shit happens with IRL contracts. Yeah, let me get my my lawyer on that. Yeah, the thing is, I'm not saying binding vows haven't been consistent. It's like, it's consistently doesn't feel like there's a large stake. We're beating a dead horse here. Binding vows. Vows feel off because Sukuna suggested I won't hurt anyone. Part of that makes sense. Yuji interests anyone else, but Sukuna made the wording like Megami technically hurt. Anyone should apply to Yuji. Maybe it's conviction. This person's a sane person. People actually refuse to read. Cool. That doesn't mean anything. That they're basic contracts and we'll get anal about wordings and technicalities. I work with contracts, something standard for them. Yeah, I think people are like very eager to like apply real world. Like, well, I've read a contract before that had a loophole and I'm like, sick, dog. Nanami should have made a binding vow to lose a fingernail and survive Mahito. Duh. Sukuna massacring thousands of people in 3 seconds mega affected Yuji was just trauma. Sukuna brought back this Enchain chapter. The power-up's gonna be insane. I sure freaking hope so. Goat Tommy got cooked by Dagon and Gojo, then Mahito and Hikari. It was just Kashimo. I understood your argument clearly now. We've been seeing binding vows used a lot in JJK. We have never seen vows broken and see what happens when they are broken. Okay. Yeah. Apology accepted, Moni. Sick. You know, love it when people are actually listen to me and aren't just yelling at me on the internet. Yeah. It's... I think that this is a time when we should have like seen consequences with Sukuna, but we didn't. And that's largely why I made that rant. I appreciate you. Okay. This has been bothering me too. Yuji shouldn't have needed to include himself. He already satisfies the condition of anybody. Unless there's some discrepancy with the characters. Anybody here speak Japanese actually? Anybody, anyone, any person, doesn't matter which person, use singular verb, gen, form, or anybody is welcome. Yeah. So does anybody here speak Japanese and can maybe shed a light on the kanji that was used? Because this could just be like a whole like language gap, language barrier thing. Who knows? I speak that doesn't count. Simply put it, not. Y'all use fun excuse to misogynistic. I don't agree with them. But y'all are saying you're interacting with the manga community. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, somebody did tell me to like unalive myself. This was really fucking funny. I laughed at this one so hard. Yeah, this person was cool. Yeah, we talked about this one already. I haven't forgotten that. I think that like, again, people think that I'm commenting on Yuji when I didn't even speak about Yuji in the thread. Current, I think the binding vows being broken will probably be an important moment, which is why it hasn't been shown yet. I'm just saying. Yeah, so I think that if Gege had planned that to be a big moment, then I think the mechanics in which Yuji and Sukuna like parted ways should not have been through a binding vow. Like if that was the case, then, you know, Sukuna and Kenjiku made a deal. Kenjiku could just fucking help him again. Twitter death threat over a manga opinion is classic. Yeah. Yeah, it's like I think people, the thing is, it's like I don't mention Yuji at all in this. I think people are just like, I don't know, like this person clearly didn't read the manga because this point. It's like, no, dude, like I didn't mention Yuji at all in that. That was purely a plot analysis. This is not an analysis on Yuji's character. Oh shit. Thank you. Sorry, it was this tweet. Yuji's happy sunshine personality really makes people forget he is in fact suicidal. He is also someone who wants to protect others for an... Like, I don't think any of these things are false. I didn't say anything about that in my Twitter thread. Yeah, this person's just... They're just mean. God, my head hurts. Somebody give this person an Advil. We already talked about this. I don't know what this is. Oh, this is the person that was like, you have an agenda. Nothing can stop Gege's streak. I'm gonna let you talk, though. Nothing can stop Gege's streak right now. Your agenda will #fail. I don't know what my agenda is, but, you know, apparently it will #fail. Oops, I went back. Go this way. Oh yeah, I reported this tweet. This is the one that was telling me to, you know, you fell off hard. Just drop JJK. The person who's like trying to get my attention telling me I fell off hard. I actually quote retweeted this person. And I was like, where was it? Yeah, and I was like, yeah, here you are trying to go get noticed by me in my quote retweets. Don't worry, we're awake now, moron. The conviction. You're not serious. I am. Need to realize I didn't talk about Yuji. This is not the point of the thread. I always found that very funny. But again, doesn't apply here. I don't understand why people think that like I don't understand Yuji at all. Like a lot of these quote retweets are about Yuji, and I think that they just don't understand that it's like I never criticized Yuji, but the point of this is that like, hey, like I'm not criticizing Yuji's plot development here. I genuinely think that this is because of the Broken Ronin tweet where he was like, oh, this is about Yuji's character, when nothing I say is about Yuji's character. Just nothing. Like, this is about binding vows. This is about, like, the plot. And this is about, like, the character and the story beats. Like, I don't think anybody is actually here to, like, talk about it. I think people saw Broken Ronin retweet this. Like, sounds like a comprehension problem to me. Really, really super rich for the person who's, like, probably don't understand what I'm saying. Yeah, again, a Yuji comment, and it's like this person with this this is funny, completely just ignored Yuji's personality. Again, this is not a thread about Yuji. Again, another Yuji thing. This is really funny. You should watch this. A WWE gif, you know. That's pretty funny. Yeah, and here's the binding vow thing. It's like you have to be meticulous. And I think people think that it's like, this is a gotcha. And I was like, yeah, this is another case where somebody made a binding vow and they suffered no consequences because they won on a technicality. It just proves my point. And then this person who's like, the QRT's gotta chill. The insults and telling her to kill herself are unnecessary. Thank you. You need to disagree with her that didn't get right. Gege didn't write himself into a corner. Yeah, this one. Yeah, and I think that people have just assumed that I'm questioning like Yuji's character development when none of it was about Yuji's character development. And that's it. That's the end of this whole thing, is that people think that I didn't like read Yuji's character development or whatever, but this thread was never even about Yuji. It's like, I think people are just like putting words into my mouth because this never said anything about Yuji. I think they're all quote retweeting this from like the Broken Ronin, most likely, who like is perpetuating that sort of like rhetoric where it's like, well, Yuji, this is why it makes sense. And I'm not saying he's wrong for saying that, but this was never a criticism on Yuji's character. Let's see. You see like 50 JoJo gifs and Luffy. Yuji develops his cognitive talent in the Choso fight. So how would chapter 10 Yuji not see himself as a person? It's not that he wouldn't see himself as a person, but he'd accept his inevitable death at the hands of Gojo. And so he'd consider himself already to be dead. Undertaker versus Overgiver. Do you know that exact fight? Also, this is a really rational human being, and I don't know if this is one of you in the chat right now. Is this Edward, who's like, I like so many of your videos, Esper, and some I disagree heavily with, and even some I disagree heavily with. Glad you're vocalizing your opinion, but I think as of late, we're in definite ends of the spectrum. It feels at odds to see, but I hope you still continue to enjoy and wish luck to your channel still. I was like, my next 45-minute long video is very overwhelmingly positive, so I have to even it out somehow. Lamau. That's a joke, by the way. I wasn't farming hate on Twitter. It was just funny. I think it would drive me insane if I tried to ignore the parts of the manga that really irk me in lieu of fitting into the fandom, especially with how much content I make. And that's very true. It's like, I'm never going to silence myself so that these like shonen bros are like, oh my God, you're so dumb. And it's like, I don't particularly care if you think I'm dumb. I don't. I've been on the internet so long and I'm so fucking old. Like, no Twitter comment calling me dumb is ever going to make me question my actual reality. And then this person said, yeah, I'm always vocal on things I dislike with One Piece and Naruto. I have to step back and realize that my like for JJK isn't the same for everyone. It's the first series I feel blinded by, which I think is true for a lot of people. I have my icks here and there, but not anything big. It's frustrating. And I said it's a very sane and rational thing. Good on you for actually doing the work to be introspective about these things. How old do you think I am? Landmine of a question. Okay. Wait. I think binding vows work like contracts in actual law. There are loopholes. Yeah, I think this is true. I don't necessarily think this is not true. There haven't been stakes. Being old solo is, yeah, being old makes you not give a shit. They're booing you, but you're right. Thanks, Jasper. Fact Yuji include anyone considered individual or consciousness. Vagueness of anyone combined with Sukuna's gamble state and usually not included within character and doesn't compromise the story. I think this person's actually making a good point. Yeah, I think this is the first person I see to make a good point. Let me read the rest of their thoughts. In all honesty, the binding vow had the most plot relevance vow with Mahito and Muta. But I feel the entire plot was less about the actual vow and more about Muta's abilities and how they will import the story after his death. The camera footage Kenjiku shows country. Yeah. The only vow seems somewhat assful was the Hakari one to sacrifice his arm. We still don't know will have a lasting effect on him. We know he can't use his domain expansion without having both hands or see a complete. Then I would completely agree with you. Values trade increase protection and not temporarily, not trade for his life. But that was the end result. I think this person actually makes a lot of sense. I think this person is smart. I think this person is like saying things that, you know, make sense in that in like a non-threatening way. 21, you think I'm 21, 22, 20 to 23. I am 28. I'm almost 30. You guys, I'm fucking old. This is why I don't give a shit about this stupid internet shit. I've been making content on and off for like a decade. I'm old. I'm 28. Yeah, I'm almost 30. Yeah. You look like you're 20. Thanks. I moisturize and I use sunscreen. That's it. But yeah, I used to be a Twitch streamer. Yeah, I was in 2018, I was a full-time Twitch streamer. So people used to say things to me in chat that were like just outright sexist and fucking awful. Like, I used to get harassed on the daily. That's why shit like this doesn't bother me. Like, I've been a Twitch streamer for like first-person shooter games. That's, you know, like, video games are toxic. to make yourself look younger? No, I just use sunscreen. Yeah. I like quit content. Like I make content and then I quit making content and I quit content and I keep making content. So yeah, that's why. Like anime is a completely new thing for me to hop into. This started off like over the pandemic in like 2021 because I was bored. And I was very obsessed with Mystic Messenger. Before that, I was a Twitch streamer. Yeah, just use sunscreen. If you want to look younger, just use sunscreen. That's my tip for the day. Cannot really see your point here. Like, it's a fair thing to say. We have never actually seen a binding vow being saying a contract change has never been violated. This is bad. So finding a loophole usually makes itself. Yeah, like I see people's like whole take here. As well, the binding vow esper allegations are crazy. Maybe that's why I'm so on the shit about binding vows, is because I'm hiding something from you guys. Phineas Ferb is better than anime. We can revisit that thought some other day. Smartest sorcerers finding a loophole. I think people aren't. You're a whole 10 years older than me, and I don't know how I feel. I don't know if it should make you feel any sort of way. I mean, I'm still the same person. I'm just old. Yeah, I think that people... I think the disconnect here, now that I'm reading more and more of these replies, I think the disconnect here is that people are analyzing Jujutsu Kaisen without breaking the fourth wall. I think they're like, this makes sense in world. And I'm like, yeah, it does. That was never my argument. I think that just Gege should have written it a little bit better. And I think that's where the disconnect lies, honestly. And the amount of time others have spent on Earth for some reason. It's okay. I know it's wild that I'm like 28. Because that makes me fucking ancient in like the anime like creating space. My immersion is broken. I never lied about my age. I always call myself old in my videos. I have always referred to myself as old in my videos. All right. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's everything, right? And then Django Senpai Zaka coming in with a dog shit take. I'm just gonna like that. Yeah. Let me look at my notifications. Thank you for the follows.
About the agenda. It's not
here.
When will you guys learn that I don't actually use logic when I do these things? I don't care what I read. It's about the agenda. It's not about what you think. It's not about reading comprehension. It's not about the story. It's about agenda. When will you guys understand that?
Is he wearing a suit?
Spirit. Every time someone's like, Jay, you're not really reading. You don't understand the story. Oh, I understand the story very well. I just don't care at all. I have been the same since I started live.
Who is this person?
Of One Piece chapter 951 to now. And you expect me to change? Why? I got to this point. I hosted a
Why?
I have 40,000 subscribers. I'm friends with all of the One Piece YouTubers because I've been the same nigga since I started. The only difference is sometimes you get a little wholesome side of me. For the most part, this is what you're getting. A rat. So do it or leave. That's it. I'm sorry. Agenda over facts.
But online I can be anything. I'm a fetus. Wow. How are you typing this? Yeah. It's really funny to me how it's really funny to me how like people think I'm really young. No one had to hear this. We know what game you're playing. I actually was going to turn this into a full video, but I was like, no, I want to make my Hell's Paradise video instead of making a second Jujutsu Kaisen video, and that's why it got cut. Little inside baseball there. He's a One Piece YouTuber. He's funny. Oh, is that guy that can do the Blackbeard laugh? I've never seen One Piece. But yeah, I didn't tweet this to farm content, by the way. I tweeted this and saw the opportunity to farm content. That's why I went live. But the farming content bit came after everybody started hating on me. You thought I was a minor? Bro, I have my own apartment. You're as old as One Piece? I'm gonna start telling people that. Driving people to hate watch videos. Yeah, I don't want people to like hate watch my videos, but I definitely was like, I saw how mad people were, and I was like, you know what? I can definitely what's it called? I can definitely just go live and talk about this instead of like responding to a bunch of people on Twitter. Esper Peace is real. But yeah, that's it, you guys. I like that. That is the conclusion of this. I think a lot of this has just been like, oh, I'm so angry at you for not recognizing Yuji's development. And it's like, that's not what the thread was about. I thought you were a bored college student. If only. No, I'm a whole adult. I'm planning on reading Hell's Paradise, but I haven't. What do you think that's better than JJK other than the plot? The characters. I think, weirdly enough, I think the character writing in Hell's Paradise, I think because it's a more contained story, like the characters aren't more complex than JJK's. I think they're just, their story is just tighter because of the nature of Hell's Paradise being 13 volumes. I think that they have good character arcs. Yuji Kaku knew exactly where their stories were going. It felt very much like each and every single character arc was planned out and it headed in that direction. And I think it tackles, you know, like women in manga very, very well without it being like contrived and feeling like, it's not fan service. What's the word for it? Without feeling, help me out here. Pandery. There we go. But yeah, Hell's Paradise is my 10 out of 10 manga. Gavimaru and the Princess Lady. You should keep reading it. It's fun. I like it a lot. Excited for Kaku's next work. Hope it's closer to HPJ and Quali than Ashimon. I like the Ashimon. I thought it was fun, but I can see why it got the axe, you know. However, I really liked the Ayashimon. I thought it was just fun. I thought like the world building was really interesting. I think I really like Yuji Kaku, so I'm a little bit biased in that regard. But yeah, I see what you mean, because like Hell's Paradise is very, very much Hell's Paradise is very much like, it feels so much more raw, and it feels like so much more is at stake, and it feels much deeper than Ayashimon. Like Ayashimon, I think, was meant to be a little bit more fun because of like Marua and God, I forgot her name. But yeah, I think that there is that sense that Ayashimon wasn't unique enough for it to be able to stand, and that's why I got the axe. Or it's so apparent that they search simple stories so much single episode increase the length. Those episodes should end in 5 minutes. I can't say anything. I've never read One Piece. Have you ever thought about streaming on Twitch again? You have an entertaining stream personality. I have, yeah. I was thinking of doing 1 day a week on YouTube and 1 day a week on Twitch. I am a Twitch partner, so I can't do both, technically. So yeah, I can't stream on YouTube and Twitch both because I'm a Twitch partner. So I can stream on Twitch one day and I can stream on YouTube the next, but I can't stream on both at the same time. Gaming stream when? What games would you guys like to see? And also, thank you, Readwell. It's been a while since I've streamed, so I'm like, have I lost my touch? Do I know how to stream anymore? Can I relist everything that JJK could have done better? Off the top of my head, I think Yuki's death, or, you know, like Yuki's death felt very bad. I think that was like a big turning point for me in my enjoyment of JJK. In terms of the whole binding vow thing, I think... Oh, wait, I needed to talk about the heavenly restriction versus binding vow. The heavenly restriction... Actually, let's not click that. Oh, this person closed their tweets. But this person essentially was like, heavenly restriction does not equal binding vow. I'm just gonna... Sorry, I just need to talk about this for... Like, somebody quote retweeted this and was like, you're a fucking idiot. Oh yeah, here. Forced BV at birth. The thing is, it's like... The whole, like, not all rectangles, or was it like not all squares are rectangles, but all rectangles? No, it's the opposite. Whatever. You get what I'm trying to say. Like, yes, heavenly restriction might be a forced binding vow at birth, but the other person never had a choice in it. And it's so technically different from the way binding vows work out in the real world. Like, Maki can't just go, I break my binding vow, or like, there's an end to this binding vow. It is like an imposed status. Like, my eyes are brown, you know, like it is a fact of life. It is not like a temporary thing like binding vows are. And that's all I had to say about that. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. Things that JJK could have done better. I think if Gege had just done his due diligence with the anyone bit, with the binding vow stuff, I think that's all it needed to be. I think that it could have just been like a throwaway comment. Like, it could have just literally been like one line in when they were making the binding vow deal that would have convinced me of it, because I pay attention to very, very small details in JJK. I think Yuki's death could have been better. I really want more lore. I think that Gege should stop giving us half sentences. Like, Sukuna's sentence to Yuji, it's like, I believe it was like, Kenjiku does the most disgusting things, or like gross things, something like that. And he said a half sentence, and then he said a half sentence about Tengen and the culling game. And I was like, all right, Gege, like, stop giving us half clues. I think that's him being obtuse again, and he's afraid that people are going to figure out what's going on in his manga. So I think those are the main things that come off the top of my head. But I love JJK. I'm like, I wouldn't be writing a fucking 6,000 word long theory video on JJK if I didn't fucking love the stupid manga. People don't get that. Let's see. Gege has two major fumbles for me, Yuki death and Yaga death. I think, honestly, I don't mind the Yaga death. Not that I was happy he died. I was very, very sad. I almost cried when Yaga died, actually. But I have this running theory that Yaga died because his children are dead, and his original children are like Panda, Big Sis, and the brother. And I think that, you know, I always say this, it's that like, you don't start experimenting with death until you've lost somebody you want to bring back, unless you're like a fucking psycho. And Yaga's not a psychopath. He is a very loving, kind, caring parental figure, and we see that in Gojo. And I think that his death, while very, very incredibly sad, was so in character for him, because when he said, I'm going to go see my son, I think he meant his dead son, because he knew what was going to happen. He knew that now that Gojo wasn't around to protect him, that they were going to come kill him. And he was saying his goodbyes. He said his goodbyes. I think that was like a well-written part of Jujutsu Kaisen. But I see why it feels like a fumble. Just stream any game you like. I'll watch pretty much anything so long as it's interesting. I might do like horror games again. I love playing horror. Well, I don't love playing horror games, but I find horror to be so disgustingly interesting that I'll submit myself to playing a game that'll scare the shit out of me. Where you can't consume a certain food product. The extras from volume 22, it just made it a little worse how Gege showed the higher ups 3 clans in the story. Where are the extras? I haven't seen it yet. I've been in a hole writing my video. I expect to see all of this Heian era flashback if it happens. I would like that. How much do I bench press? I bench press nothing. I use free weights. I'm too scared to bench press. Definitely need to dip more into the lore in JJK, maybe doing a prequel series that's non-shonen maybe. I would honestly, I think the biggest thing that like can happen for JJK right now is if it does a Chainsaw Man and it gets out of Shonen Jump into Jump Plus, where it's a little bit more mature. And I think that'll fit Gege's vibe a little bit more, because Gege, you can see Gege like towing into the horror, and I love all of the horror shit that Gege creates. I'm a big horror fan. I love horror. That's why I love Jujutsu Kaisen. That's initially why I fell into Jujutsu Kaisen. And then I read volumes 8 and 9 and I'm like, oh my God, I love Geta. Besides the point. Anyway, so yeah, I think that the biggest thing that can happen for JJK, if this is a thing that can happen, is like for it to go into Jump Plus and for it to be a little bit more skewed towards the older audience, simply because the themes that Gege wants to write about seems much more mature than what is appropriate for Jump. Jujutsushi subreddit. I'll check it out later. Yaga Death was the most confusing thing. I really thought I was missing pages. I turned the page, all of a sudden he's dead. Yeah, that was a pretty confusing set of events. I think that it also happened in between like really intense moments. So it like happened in a series of like events in one chapter where you're like, oh my God, this intense thing happened. Yaga died. What the fuck? And then in the next chapter, you're like, wait, we're out of this scene and we're into the Mai and Maki arc. It's a very, like, I understand why it's placed there, but it's a very, very intense like placing between 2 big events. And it's like, it's hard to like completely wrap your head around it, especially with like all the whirlwind that's happening around it. The defense of Yaga Akutami is clearly sick during the time, which reflected on Maki's first arc. Oh, was he? I love seeing my favorite YouTubers scared off, so horror would be great. It's a brag, but I can bench press 315. Proud of you, buddy. What themes exactly? Themes, sorry, what was I talking about with regards to themes? I was talking a lot. Yeah, I used to play Visage. I've played Visage. I have so many unplayed Steam games. JJK's darker themes. Yeah, so JJK's darker themes, I think, again, like Gege loves body horror. He tends toward a little bit more, and I think everybody knows this, that one of his inspirations is, why am I blanking on one of my favorite horror mangaka's names? The one who wrote Uzumaki, Junji Ito. How could I forget? But yeah, Junji Ito writes grotesque body horror. I don't think you could put, like, you could put violence in Jump, but I don't think you could put like grotesque body horror in Jump, if that makes sense. Like, there's definitely like Geta's own Uzumaki, you know, like all of the monsters and curses that are popping up in the colony right now. I think Gege is definitely tending toward like the darker parts of Jujutsu world and how unforgiving it is. And I think that, you know, death is a very, very prevalent topic in Jujutsu Kaisen, but also we've moved past the loss of innocence topic onto basically a little bit more of the, it's a little bit more of finding out who you are in this like realm of like deep, dark, like almost post-apocalyptic world, right? Like for the sorcerers, it's already post-apocalyptic because of all the things happening within the colonies. For the people outside, it's kind of like approaching that. There's still some people that are not as aware, but I think like we've moved from like we've moved from coming of age, loss of innocence to like, oh, you know, we need to move in this direction. We need to like, we might not necessarily get to do things that are moral and right when we have to get back Megami, whoever else, you know? Like, I think that there's a switch happening into the themes of who the characters are that, you know, harder and harder choices are going to start to happen. Like, do they kill Megami? Do they try to kill Megami? You know, what happens here? You know, does Megami somehow get out unscathed? Probably not. I would hope not. Not because I hate Megami, but because like, I don't hate Megami, by the way. I just dislike him as a character. But, you know, like if you like think about it, like you're Yuji and this is your friend and you care about him, like now you are ready to die. Like Yuji was very, very ready to die, right? Is he ready to kill Megami? He was under the opinion that he should die because he was the vessel of Sukuna. Can he bring that same energy over to wanting to kill Megami because Megami is now the vessel of Sukuna? Like the themes are getting further and further more into the darker end of decision making and morals and who people are. And I think that Jump, like somebody said in chat, like Gege is already pushing what's allowable for Jump. I think that this story lives so hard in the constraint of what Jump allows that bringing it out of Jump would just do wonders for it. Being cursed in JJK mean. Yaga cursed Gakuganji and died. Megami is your favorite character. He is a good character. I don't think that Megami is like a bad character, like technically. I think that Megami is just I don't think Megami is a bad character technically. I think he's very well written. I just don't like his personality. That's it. Megami is cooked. Gojo is packed up. Nobara is MIA. Yuji is pathetic. Sukuda's words, not mine. We are cooked. Yeah, I think Yuji will rise to the occasion. You're the type talking about someone to die infuses some sort of request statement. Someone is still alive. We don't know the implications of it at all, though. Yeah, we don't know, Caesar. We don't know the implications of it. The visuals in the chapters before were nightmare fuel. Yeah. He didn't curse him directly, but cursed him for forbidden knowledge of how to artificially create life. Yeah, I think that like curses are a very like cursing somebody is a very like abstract thing in Jujutsu world. I think it might mean like misfortune in some regard. Like I think it's very amorphous. It's not like a clear-cut thing that happens. But yeah. He didn't curse him directly, but cursed with the forbidden knowledge of how to artificially create life. Yeah. That is definitely like one of the larger themes of what happened with Gakuganji and Yaga. I think that was like a shot on Gakuganji, who was like just following orders, you know? Yuji's grandpa, Reggie, and Yaga all have done it. While it was brought up with Geto and Gojo and Nanami's inner monologue. Question: does Yuji know Kenny is his mom? I don't know, actually. I think I don't know if he remembers his dream. That's the thing. I'm gonna give it like a 70-30, 30%. He knows, 70 he doesn't. Junji Ito made a horror action. That would just be crazy. Yeah, although I don't think that's in Junji Ito's like style. Also, will Inumaki be relevant? Probably not. He doesn't otherwise. He would have had another mental breakdown. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, I don't think... I don't know if it's going to come up. That's the thing. It's like we're at the point where it's gonna... We're at the point here where it's like we need something to happen for Yuji to survive, right? Like Yuji no longer has Sukuna. And the whole thing of Gojo talking about his power, definite like Sukuna's power like seeping into Yuji, that hasn't come to fruition yet in any like way that we know of. Like Yuji is still just super strong. Yeah. So we're coming at a crossroads where Yuji is going to have to become more powerful to be able to defend himself and to be able to survive. Otherwise, Yuji can die. Like, I'm just putting that out there. Story's gonna definitely have a Luke, I am your father moment. Oh my god. Yuji has said to Junpei that he had no memories of his mother and barely remembers his father. That was way before the dream. Yeah, that was way before the dream. All right. Well, we had a good talk. I think that we dissected that Twitter argument fairly well without losing our marbles. Is there anything that any of you would like to talk about before I head out? Place everything in the chat now and we'll talk about it. And then after I address any of like your thoughts, questions, and comments, I'm going to head out. And I'm going to go work on my video because it's still not finished. It's so long. Last night I was editing. I told my friends, I was like, I'm going to go edit, you guys. I want to cut 2,000 words from my video. Not these 2,000 words. And I added 300 instead. So what is even math, you know? Have you read 215? Is that the latest chapter? I think I read it like briefly when it came out, but I haven't properly read it yet. What's terrifying to me about how Gojo versus Sukuna is the fact that Sukuna knows exactly how Gojo's domain and technique works. I think, well, he doesn't know about Sukuna's exact technique, and that is terrifying, but at the very least he knows exactly about Megami's technique. So there's no gained there's no added bonus in terms of like who's gonna win there, I think, which is nice. But yeah, definitely scary. Great stream, had a lot of fun. Can't wait for the next one. What type of character would you like to see in a story? Just characters in general. I think that there's always the... Have you guys watched Psychopaths? The guy in Psychopaths who just had this like morally gray compass. Love that stereotype. And I love the person that's like Akane from Psychopaths, who's like, I'm going to do everything in my power to reform the system because I believe in the system, but I don't think the system is foolproof and it needs to be improved, but I will trust in it and I will work to improve it. Those two characters, love them. Those characters are based as fuck. Psychopaths is based, yeah. My favorite character is the type that's stupidly over the top comic relief, kind of like Takaba. Also a good choice. All right. Well, thank you for coming to chat, everybody. I know that you all now figured out that I am old as fuck. And that I make Twitter threads that get taken really super out of context. So yeah, I'm still working on my video, so please look forward to that. Turn on your notifications if you haven't already. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next live. Don't know when that'll be, but I've been trying to create more of a schedule. Base Esper stream, thank you. Am I 48? Maybe. I love the stream. Thank you. I've not... Peak Clover? Nope, I haven't read it. Bye.